Hello, welcome to Mike Kemp's Garage Jazz. John Peters is a drummer, a band leader, a promoter, a jazz lecturer and a record producer. He presents a radio show called Now You Have Jazz, Jazz, Jazz on the internet radio station Sounds of Spitfire. John's shows go out at 7 p.m. on Mondays, Tuesday night at midnight and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Catch them, they're good shows. He invited me onto his show to have a conversation about what I laughingly refer to as my career. The show went out on December the 4th, 2023. Today, I'm delighted to share that show with you here on Mike Kemp's Garage Jazz. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to Now You Has Jazz, Jazz, Jazz from John Peters on the Sound of Spitfire. My guest today is a very old friend of mine, a very fine pianist, composer, arranger and all-round good egg, Mike Kemp. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Well, thank you, John. What kind words. Thank you.
Well, we go back quite a long while because we collaborated over several things. You did my Gershwin show and a spiritual CD and Hoagie and all of that sort of thing. But you've been doing a lot more since then and with quite a variety of different artists. What we're going to dig into, Mike, is how did you end up playing jazz piano? What started it all?
I went to a grammar school. See, I shouldn't have gone there, really. I should have gone to a technical college or art college or something. Anyway, I fetched up in this grammar school. It wasn't a happy experience for me. And in my second year, I ended up in what is called the remove. You've probably heard that expression from the Billy Bunter book.
Oh, yes, I remember those.
Well, the remove was made up of boys who in the first year had blotted their copybooks in some way or other. There were the ne'er-do-wells and the miscreants. I ended up there. Anyway, the important thing was I made a very good friend with a chap called Dave Ball. My mum, my best pal ever, when I was a schoolboy, at that time, she would give me money every couple of weeks to go and buy a record. 78s, of course, in those days.
Yeah.
She still had a wind-up gramophone. So this particular day, I'd gone into town, Coventry, my hometown, to a record shop called Hanson's to buy the record we'd chosen together that day. We used to choose our records from the people we heard on the radio. And this particular day, I set out to buy Oh Mine Papa by an English trumpet player called Eddie Calvert. For legal reasons, we can only play a fragment of Eddie Calvert playing Oh Mine Papa.
Yes, I'm familiar with that name. That's part of my childhood as well.
OK, we had Montavani.
Yeah.
Which I loved. They still do, by the way.
Yeah.
Snotto Durante. I'm the guy who found the lost chord.
Yes.
And what else do we have? Oh, Edmundo Ross. Very polite Latin band.
Yeah.
But I loved him. Anyway, I was in the shop and I just paid for the record, Oh Mine Papa. And Dave Ball turned up. For some reason, the topic of jazz had never cropped up when we were at school. He said, what have you bought? I said, it's Oh Mine Papa by Eddie Calvert. And I just paid the money to the girl, still at the counter. And he said to the girl, give him his money back, you've robbed him. He said, if you want to hear a trumpet player, I've got just the thing for you. Well, of course, in those days, record shops had listening booths.
Yeah.
So there were probably 6 listening booths in a row in this shop, you know. So he went off, found a record. He gave it to the girl to play. She said, booth number 3. We went in. What the girl said was, if you like this record, you can have it instead of the one you bought, you see. She didn't want to lose the sale.
No.
Anyway, I went in the listening booth with Dave, and this music came out the speaker. And it's enveloped me. It was like being taken up in a giant's arms. It was such a warm, wonderful feeling. And I've never heard anything like it.
Well, let's give it a spin.
For legal reasons, Western Blues by the Louis Armstrong Hot 5 cannot be played.
Well, Mike, what was your reaction when you heard that in that record booth?
Well, it was like being enveloped by this warm glow, like the cereal advert, you know. I was totally captivated.
Yeah.
So I did in fact take the record home.
Right, now that was, of course, Louis Armstrong, wasn't it?
Yes, that was Louis Armstrong with his Hot Five. Jimmy Strong on clarinet, Fred Robinson trombone, Earl Hines on the piano. Who's the banjo player?
Mansi Carr, wasn't it?
Carr, yeah.
Yeah.
And the great Zetty Singleton on the drums.
Yes, indeed. Now, that's a classic recording. It's an amazing recording. But you were listening to this in, 1953?
That was 1953, yes.
Yeah, but the record was, shall we say, some years old by that time.
Well, it was 1926, I think it was recorded.
Yeah,
was it?
28, I think.
28, yeah.
Yeah.
What a great band that was.
So what were you doing as a youngster in 1953, listening to a record that was, nearly 20 years old or thereabouts?
Well, I didn't realise it was 20 years old, of course, at that time. It was new to me. Of course, later on, I actually saw, the first live band I actually saw was the Louis Armstrong All-Stars.
Wow.
Well, now, to my mind, the band I saw then, it was the band that had just finished filming High Society.
Ah, right, yeah.
And it was the same band, except it wasn't Arvel Shaw on bass, it was Jack Lesberg.
Right.
So it was Edmund Hall and Trummy Young.
Wow.
Billy Carl and Barrett Deems. I thought I'd romanticised it in my mind, but now I know a lot more than I did then. That band was the best band of that size he ever had, I think.
Yeah. It was a great band, wasn't it?
Well, I know he'd had Jack Teagarden and Barney Biggard, and they're all great players, and it was a good band. But I think that Trummy Young, Edmund Hall, Louis frontline was the best he ever had.
Was that your first experience of hearing jazz then, Mike?
Yes, it was, yes.
And what did your mum think of the record when you took it home?
I can picture her face this day. A mouse fell open. She was thrilled to bits with it.
Wow.
So from then on, we only bought jazz records.
Right, okay. Were you playing anything at all in those days?
No, we had a piano at home and my mum played the piano.
Right.
But I don't know why, I had no interest in playing the piano. And until I went to the concert, before I went to that concert, I'd heard jazz. I did the traditional thing because as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, you couldn't go into pubs where jazz was being played.
Right.
Coventry had quite a lot of jazz going on because the London musicians would come up. So I actually listened to Tubby Hayes and Jimmy Duca in the car park in the freezing cold because I couldn't go in the pub because I was too young.
That was, of course, a more modern form of jazz. So were your ears leaning towards that at that time or
no.
more traditionally or all of it?
No, John, no, the next record I bought 2 weeks after West End Blues, I looked down the jazz records, which I'd never looked at before. And I was going through, and of course all these names I've never heard of anyway, but this label caught my eye. It was a white bird label with a big note on it. You know?
Right, yeah.
And it looked kind of cool, you know. So I asked the girl if I could hear it, and it's my next choice of record, actually. Well, it's a band described as a Lionel Hampton quintet.
Right.
Who's on it? Well, it's amazing. Now, these names didn't mean anything to me. I'd never heard of Lionel Hampton. Similarly, I'd never heard of Oscar Peterson on the piano, who, of course, is now a firm favourite, has been all these years.
Yeah.
Who's on double bass? Ray Brown.
Yeah.
Barney Kessel on guitar.
Yeah.
No, is it Barney Kessel or Herb Ellis? One of those two. And Buddy Rich on the drums.
Wow.
And it's not a frantic thing. I'll play it, John, and you'll see. I just fell in love with this record.
And this is A Foggy Day.
For legal reasons, A Foggy Day by the Lionel Hampton Quintet cannot be played.
Lionel Hampton's band from, I guess that's the early 50s, Mike.
It is, yeah.
What did you think of that when you heard it in the record booth then?
Well, I was captivated all over again. And obviously, I recognised it was different from the feel that Louis had produced in the 20s.
Yeah.
But it had got that common denominator, that jazz thing, you know.
Yeah, the timing and the phrasing.
Yes, so I loved it. I wouldn't have used the word cool at that time, but it was a cool record, you know.
Yeah. Did you ever see any of the performance on that live?
I saw Lionel Hampton, saw Oscar, saw Ray-Ban. I saw them all over the years separately.
Marvellous. I certainly saw Hamp, and I saw Oscar, and I saw Buddy Rich. I didn't see the others, unfortunately, but all of them were great experiences.
Well, I saw Ray Brown at a festival in Germany when I was there years later with Pete, the Pete Allen Band. We finished our set about 10 minutes after they'd started their set a few streets away. So I kept looking at my watch saying, come on, Pete, finish. I've got to go and see this. It was a Ray Brown trio with Gene Harris, Ray Brown and Jeff Hamilton. Also, I was in the wings watching them, you know. It was just fantastic.
Oscar Peterson, then, was he a big influence on you? And was this one of the things that led you to take up the piano?
No, it wasn't. It was seeing that concert with Louis Armstrong. And I loved Louis, of course. But on the way home and for weeks afterwards, what I could hear was Billy Kyle's chords ringing in my head.
Right.
I don't know what it took. So it took about 6 weeks. I suddenly thought, my breathing went like this. Well, Billy Kyle breathes through his nose, walks on his feet a lot, got hands on his arm. So I've got all that. I wonder if I could play the piano.
Ah. Did you try and find the notes yourself, or did you go for lessons?
Well, two things happened simultaneously. Really. 6 weeks later, I suddenly thought, I want to play jazz piano. So I started tinkering on the piano, which we had at home. We had a piano. My mum kept it tuned because she played it often. My grandmother was an absolutely outstanding piano player. She'd been brought up in a very well-to-do Victorian household. And in Victorian households, the young ladies of the house, the daughters, were given accomplishments to do. So they would either go horse riding, or recite poetry, tell stories. My grandmother was put to the piano, but she took to it. And as a result, she played concertos, sight-read concertos. And also, she had a wonderful ear. And when I eventually started to play, she would help me listen to the jazz records and sort out what was going on. I said to my mum, Mum, I want to play jazz piano. Anyway, she said, jazz piano? Well, there's a classical teacher down the street, Miss Newbold. No, I was like 14 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So I said, that'll do. So I went to Miss Newbold and I fell in love with her. I mean, I thought she was an old lady. But I've worked it out since. I was 14. I think she was about 32. What a teacher. Fantastic. She got me through all the grades, up to grade 8 by the time I was 20.
Right, so you were learning to read then at the time?
Yeah, she taught me to read. And of course, once you can read, you can write. So what I was doing, I was taking Oscar Peterson records and trying to transcribe it. Now, I could generally do the first chorus, but then when he took off, mate, it was impossible to write it down, you know. It's not that I wanted to copy and play what he was doing. What I wanted to do was study what he was doing.
Learning the language, in other words.
Learning the language, yeah. And consequently, when I first saw chord symbols, I'll tell you about my first paid gig. Yes, it was with a little dance band, the British Legion Club in Clay Lane, Coventry. And it was a bank holiday Monday. The piano player was a drop deal or something. The alto player of the band was Colin, and they couldn't get a piano player. And Eileen, his girlfriend, said, well, there's Mike down the street. He plays the piano. And he said, Anyway, I ended up, because he said, well, I suppose he'd be better than nobody. And when I turned up, they were reading music, and they got chord symbol, which I'd never seen before.
Right.
But because I knew my scales and arpeggios, as soon as I saw, say, C minor 6, I could immediately put my hands to it. All these chord sequences, I could play them immediately. So anyway, I thought I did pretty well for the first gig, you know. And the band did subsequently ask me to play with them again, you know. So I must have done okay.
How long then before you actually became a pro piano player?
I had a spell in a band called the Trevor Jones Jazzmen. They're on my next record, but I was in the band twice, and the first time I joined them, I was still serving an apprenticeship at the GC in Coventry. I ended up a qualified electronic design draftsman. A band called the Dougie Richford London Jazzmen came to Coventry, to one of the jazz clubs in Coventry, and I knew that Trevor Jones had had a spell on the road with the Doug Richford band. So I thought, well, I've got to go and see this band out of curiosity, you know. The next bit, mate, it sounds like a novel, but I'll tell you, it happened. I was dressed, a lovely white shirt, hunting red waistcoat, black parade trousers and highly polished shoes. And when I went in, the band were all wearing exactly the same as I was. Dougie comes and sat next to me, and he said, "Here, son, you looking for a job with the band?" And I said, "Well, I'll play piano with you." He looks at me, he said, "What would you play?" So I thought, I'll make it easy for myself. So I said, "All of me."
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, all of me. And what key would you do that in?" I said, B flat, C, F, A flat, G. He said, well, we'll start the next step with it. Come and do it with us. So I went. All the guys were taking 2 choruses. I do my 2 choruses. Then at the end I stood up. He said, "Do you know Perdido Street Blues?" Well, of course, I'm a big fan of Louis Armstrong.
Yes.
With that Johnny Dodds thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, yes. Oh, and also, Trevor taught it to us. All the bands played the same arrangement because that's what Louis played. And I knew the Louis record anyway. So anyway, I ended up doing the whole second set with him. And at the end of the night, he said, "You're quite handy on that piano. Give our roadie your phone number." Now, this was in the 1960.
Right.
So I said, "Phone number?" Nobody had phones, John.
No, I can remember those days.
Except the doctor in the shop, you know.
Yeah.
So he said, "Well, give him your address then." I paused because he used an expletive. And I did. And lo and behold, 6 weeks later, I had a letter from him asking if I'd like to join his quartet playing for the military in France.
Wow.
Now, between meeting him and the arrival of the letter, I'd actually finished my apprenticeship and I was a fully qualified engineer now.
Right.
Incidentally, my last pay packet as an apprentice was £4.10 and 6. Now I was qualified, my money suddenly went up to £15, 10 shillings. But nevertheless, I served that apprenticeship to please my dad, really.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what to do. And as for making a living from music, how'd you do that? You know, it's like a mystery, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, I'll join this band. Because my reasoning was, I'd rather end up in a cardboard box on Charing Cross Station than come to this factory for the next 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I can echo that view.
People said how brave I was and all that. There was no bravery attached to it.
No. You saw the factory job as a slavery, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and actually, I ended up, the few weeks I did it, the firm gave me a wonderful job. But I had an office of my own with a desk, a drawing board, a workbench and an armchair.
Yeah.
What was the armchair for? It's what you sat in while you figured things out. I was with Dougie, how long? 3 years. We spent usually 1 month at a time at different American military bases all over France, Germany, Spain and Morocco.
So a great experience and an opportunity to travel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the truth was, John, I wasn't really up to the gig when I first joined Dougie because I didn't know enough.
Yeah.
But Dougie took a shine to me as a bloke. And he was a great piano player himself. And he showed me all kinds of stuff. So within a year, I got his job. I could do it properly, you know. Still learning and still studying, by the way. Anyway, that was that. Then Dougie decided to give the band up to start an agency. I came back home and immediately rejoined the Trevor Jones band. Trevor, he was a hot trumpet player in a sort of Muggsy Spanier kind of way.
Yeah, yeah.
Great player, knew all the tunes. There was one Friday, we knew that the Acker-built Paramount Jazz Band were doing a concert at De Montfort Hall in Leicester. So we all thought our takings were bound to be down that night. They weren't. And after Acker finished his concert, he came out to our club. The club was in the back room. Oh, it's packed out, in spite of Acker being on, you know. Because he came down and he said, what could I do with these people in the Montfort? Anyway, everybody gone home. The band and Acker and a few of the hangers-on were in the Locks pub then. And Acker said, you lads should be doing better than this. I bridled a bit because I thought, well, I'm getting 30, 40 quid a week here, you know. And he's saying I should be doing better, you know. He said, I'll see what I can do. The following week, we were all in the Vic, in the bar before we started. And the Vic had, it was called the Victoria Arms. There was a phone box just inside the doorway, a GPO phone box.
Yeah.
It wasn't red, it was painted powder blue to fit in with the pub, you know. Anyway, it was ringing, and the gaffer went, and he said, "Here, Trev, it's Hacker built for you." So 6 of us crowded into the phone box, and Trev was saying, "Oh, broadcast, yeah. Oh, not much money, only 95 quid. Well, if that's the best you could do, Hack." So that's how we came to do a broadcast, and my next record is taken from that broadcast.
My guest, Mike Kemp, playing a feature number with the Trevor Jones Jazzmen on the Jazz Club broadcast from, what year was that, Mike?
1967, May the 28th.
And that was your first broadcast?
That was my first ever broadcast.
It's a Duke Ellington tune, obviously, sat in Dole. So had Duke been a big thing on your musical horizon?
Not at that time.
Ah.
To me, he came later. And of course, I fell in love with him. I rate him up there with the all-time governor, Louis Armstrong. Because we're getting up into the 70s now. I had a summer season in Bournemouth with Trevor Horn and the Hornets. I went on a QE2. And then when I came off the ship, Mike Hale fixed me up with a band called the Mike Carton Jazz Bandits. He called it the Jazz Bandits because, as he put it, we steal music from everybody. So it was trumpet and trombone, piano, bass and drums. So we played the music right from New Orleans to Shorty Rodgers, and but it was an incredible band. And I've chosen the next record because I play a piano solo in it, and I play the intro in a way you don't hear me play these days. With this band, we did 3 years running at the Breda Jazz Festival in Holland. We did the Cork Jazz Festival 3 years running. Oh, the stories comes out of that, mate. But anyway, you can play this record because it shows me in a different light altogether.
My guest, Mike Kemp, with the Mike Carton Jazz Bandits, recorded in the 80s, you say, Mike?
Yep.
Pretty lively session, that, and slightly different style to the previous one, I would say.
Absolutely.
What about the trio that you ran for so many years?
Well, the trio, we did some jazz clubs around the Midlands. We got hired by different singers. Which brings us to my next record, because if people know me at all, they think of my trio as being Thomas Pedersen on the double bass and Mike Tustin on the drums.
Yeah.
And Mike Tustin passed away now. But that trio was actually together for 7 years. We were busy. We did a lot of exhibitions. We did the BBC Garden Show for about 4 years running. We played the Ideal Home exhibition. We did the Caravan Show down in Earls Court. All the West End hotels, the Savoy, the Hilton, Dorchester, Grosvenor rooms, yeah. Because we got him with a good agency, you know. It was a lovely period. Neither Thomas nor Mike hardly ever took a night off. So it was just wonderful playing with these guys night after night. The next record is one that the albums of which I am very, very proud. This is quite a short track, but it features a lovely singer called Elizabeth May. The title of the track is I Won't Dance.
I won't dance, don't ask me. I won't dance, don't ask me. I won't dance, monsieur, with you. My heart won't let my feet do things they should do. You know what? You're handsome, and so what? You're handsome, and oh, what you do to me. I'm like an ocean wave that's bumped on the shore. I feel so absolutely stumped on the floor. When you dance, you're charming and you're gentle, especially when you do the continental. But this feeling isn't purely mental. For heaven rest us, I'm not asbestos, and that's why I won't dance. Why should I won't dance. How could I won't dance. Merci beaucoup. I know that music leads the way to romance. So if I hold you in my arms, you can forget dancing.
I Won't Dance. My guest, Mike Kemp, with the singer Elizabeth May.
The album, it's one of the best I've ever done.
And it's still available?
It's now available on Bandcamp. Look on Mike Kemp Music on Bandcamp.
Right. Ches Chesterman, now there's a name to conjure with.
Well, I met Ches on one of your gigs in Buckingham.
Yes, I remember it very well.
Ches and I struck up a friendship and a partnership, because shortly after that, we put a band together. I'd always been intrigued by the Jonah Jones Quartet, and it turned out Ches was a big Jonah Jones fan. And I said to Ches, listen, what about the quartet? He said, I've only ever played with trumpet and trombone, big bands and a quartet. He said, I'm not sure I'm up to that. I said, look, Ches, give it a go. We'll get one gig. If you hate it, we need never do another one. We got a gig. Anyway, on the gig, within the first 8 bars of his playing on this gig, he turned to me and put his thumb up. So we kept the quartet going for a while, and we called it Red Alert. Well, this is Ches's own band, which he called quite simply the Ches Chesterman Band. And this was recorded at the Concord Club in Eastleigh. Wonderful club, one of the best jazz clubs I've ever been to.
Absolutely. And who's in the lineup on this?
Well, what a lineup. Trevor Whiting on alto on this track. Dave Hewitt trombone. Ken Ames on double bass.
Yeah.
And Martin Guy on the drums. And I'm at the wonderful Eastleigh grand piano.
Yeah, and a good piano it is as well. So this is Should I Reveal?
you very much indeed.
Ches Chesterman's band with my guest Mike Kemp at the piano.
Sticky Wicket is a big Gene Krupa man.
Good player as well.
Well, he excels at Gene Krupa stuff, yeah. And this track is called Leave Us Leap. I've got a 16-bar solo in the middle, but it's all good players on the band. Richard Exlaw's on it, Andy Derrick on trombone, John Ruddick, Kevin Johnson on trumpet, Mally Baxter's on it. So here it is, Sticky Wicket, Leave Us Leap.
Leave Asleep by Sticky Wicket Swing Orchestra with my guest Mike Kemp. Mike Kemp's Garage Jazz, what's this all about?
Oh, my YouTube channel. I started this channel when lockdown came and all our gigs disappeared in 4 days. They all went out of diary in about 4 days. I started putting out videos of myself playing the piano with a drum and bass track I used to make myself using an app called GarageBand, which is why I've called it Mike Kemp's Garage Jazz. I didn't realise at the time that Garage Jazz means something else to the kids, and I've kept it going ever since. There's now about 179 videos up there. I feature guests most weeks. Some of the videos are from live gigs, either new gigs or old footage that's turned up, and I'm slowly building up a following.
My thanks to my guest, Mike Kemp, for sharing his musical memories with me. You've been listening to Now You Has Jazz, Jazz, Jazz with John Petters on the sound of Spitfire. I'll be back next week with some more great music. Thank you for listening.
Well, there you are. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. Thanks for watching. Please click like, even if you didn't. Click subscribe. And now it's time for me to say goodbye. Goodbye.